Hey everybody, since we are either starting a new series or reading a standalone book, I am jumping in to remind you what the rules are for this podcast. First rule is no real people stories. That means that any details from our own lives are merely anecdotal, and we are not reading any books that depict real people as their characters in any way or are based on historical events. Second rule is that we are judging everything off of how the author treats characters and what they put them through. We are not judging the accuracy of the trauma, the accuracy of any actual conditions that may be portrayed, or the authenticity of a character's reaction to that trauma or that particular condition. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The hosts are not trained professionals, and their opinions come from personal experience, not professional training. In this episode, we discuss fictional depictions of trauma and violence that may not be suitable for all listeners, so please take care of yourselves. Specific content warnings for each episode can be found in the show notes. Events in the media are discussed in approximate order of escalation. This episode contains spoilers. In Sabriel, the first installment of the Old Kingdom, Sabriel is confronted with the end of her childhood and the full magnitude of her role as a Borson, the one who keeps the dead down, searching for her father and discovering her place in the world as she is hunted by new and old enemies alike.
Hi, I'm Nicole.
And I'm Robin, and today we are discussing Sabriel by Garth Nix, Book 1 of the Old Kingdom series.
Okay, so our factions for this book, we have Sabriel, our main character. We have Touchstone, who is also our minor character spotlight. We have Mogget the cat, for now. We have the old Aborson, who is Sabriel's dad. We have the army at the perimeter between the Old Kingdom and... how do you say that?
Anselsteer.
Okay. And then we have the teachers and students at Sabriel's college, which is Waverly College. So our minor character...
Super quick factions thing.
Yes.
Sabriel's dad, who she thought his name was Aborson.
Yeah.
When I was a kid and I read the books, I thought his name was Emeritus because Mogget, when he needs to distinguish, calls him Aborson Emeritus.
Oh.
It was on rereading this book and being an adult who knew what emeritus meant.
Oh my gosh.
Was when I realized that that was not his name.
Can you give a brief definition for emeritus, just for any listener that doesn't know?
Emeritus is, basically, it's Latin for something that probably means the former.
Oh, yeah.
That's how it is used, in English. Emeritus is the former holder of an office, and the reason I now know it is because you'll have a professor emeritus. It's, someone who's retired, could teach a class if they want, and the college still calls them a professor, even though they don't necessarily teach there anymore.
So Mogget is trying to say, hey...
he's dead, and if he's not dead, he's not coming back to his job. Yeah. So it's a way of being respectful and not stripping a title, while still indicating that you're not currently filling the position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't remember what I thought his name was when I was a kid. I do remember thinking that... I think I just thought we never learned his name.
Mm-hmm. I definitely thought, oh good, his name is Emeritus. Except I thought it was Emeritus.
Yeah. So our
minor fun thing, in case anyone else still thought his name was Emeritus.
Or thought he was nameless like me.
I mean, we don't get his name. It's not Emeritus.
We do. Well...
No, we don't. That's the whole thing. We never find out what his name is. We just have his title, and then we have no longer holding title. He's only ever referred to as Aborson or Aborson Emeritus.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
I will...
Which I think is part of the point.
Yeah,
his identity is being the Aborson, and so it's pointing Sabriel toward that being whole identity. So, minor thing. So for our minor character spotlight, we are going to discuss Touchstone, who was preserved as a wooden figurine at the front of a ship for 200 years. And before that, he was the half-brother of Rogir the Prince, who is the one who broke the kingdom and got everybody killing people more. Like, they were all always necromancers, but Rogir ushered in a new era of terribleness.
Yeah, and specifically with our spotlight, we're not actually focusing as much on the 200-year slippage.
Right.
Because that is a big deal, and it definitely affects Touchstone, but we don't get as much of Touchstone's reaction to that as we do to Rogir's betrayal and the trauma that he suffered right before he fell into that sleep. Rogir was the prince, left, came back, and then brought, I believe it was indicated, all currently living members of the royal family, including Touchstone, down where the great charter stones were, and was planning on breaking every single one of the great stones by sacrificing a family member on each stone. He only broke 2, but Touchstone, part of this trauma with Touchstone is that he was instrumental in getting the other people to go down to the reservoir. Like, Rogir was his best friend and comes to him and says, hey, help me. Like, I've got this cool thing down there and I want to show everybody, and help me convince my mom, the queen, and my sister to go down with us, because the queen didn't want to go.
It was just convincing the queen, I thought. The sisters were already down there, which is why 2 stones were broken already.
Oh,
Unless they had so many sisters. But at least the 2 stones that were broken, it was broken with the sisters. As they got down there, the stones were broken, which means they weren't the ones walking with the queen.
Yes, but he needed the queen, I think, for to get all the stones, and Touchstone was the reason that the queen went, because he backed Rogir up, even without knowing what it was, because he trusted him. He was his best friend. He was his half brother. He was the prince, and He didn't see anything suspicious in that. So then, as they got down to the reservoir, they saw a couple of Rogir's undead servants cracking a stone with his sister's blood. Like, they saw it happen. And then Touchstone lost a lot of the memory there, and then woke up 200 years later with this trauma and the fact that he was an instigator in it. He was an accomplice to it. Fresh in his head. That was the fresh memory in his head.
Like, even with his name is, as we're told, it's a fool's name. Mogget named him Touchstone.
Yeah,
and he starts to protest and says, "Oh, that's a jester's name. That's a fool's name." And Mogget's basically like, "But you were a massive idiot, so don't you think it's appropriate?"
Sounds about right. Problem?
And this is the first hint that something more, that he was, like, more than just a victim in some way.
Yeah.
Because we learn that before we get his backstory.
Yep. And there's a lot of very stereotypically, and I say stereotypically on purpose, PTSD type representation of his memories of this and his reaction to them. We get a literal description of the first time he goes down to show Sabriel the reservoir. He freezes. He has a panic attack at the top of the stairs. And not because of the broken charter stones, although that is also traumatic for them in a different way. And not because of the undead, because this is a point where, like, there's undead literally everywhere. Like, them freezing and holding still is more dangerous than going down to that reservoir in the moment. But he has a panic attack because he flashes back to the last time he walked down those steps. He was unwittingly leading the queen to her death. He was, and I don't remember, do we know if the queen or the king was his parent?
I didn't get the impression that a king was still in the picture.
So probably.
Because I think Roggeir was older, and the queen didn't marry Touchstone's father.
Okay, so then he's literally, he flashes back to leading his mother to her death.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple other moments, because they had to go destroy Roggeir's body, or that was the plan anyway. And it was on the other side of the wall, outside the Old Kingdom, and they go and they get the body. And again, like, getting close to the source of his magic, there's other reasons why that's a difficult thing emotionally or physically or magically for people to do. But again, there's a couple of moments where Touchstone just freezes. He just can't.
Yeah.
And Sabriel has to be kind of like, hey, come on, I need you. Are you all right? Are we doing okay? And then he kind of snaps out of it, but like, he very much flashes back to that multiple times when confronted with anything that reminds him or relates to that moment when he led the queen down and then saw his sister killed. Okay, so moving on to our main character, Sabriel. The first topic that we're going to talk about with Sabriel is her first experience with the physicality and the actual moment of a human death. Sabriel, so it's important to note here, Sabriel's been training to be an abortion. Her dad has been training her whole life. She has an intimate familiarity with death and its river and its gates, and she hasn't gone through all of them, but I think she states in the book that she'd gone up through the 5th precinct.
Yeah, like at some point she says how many, and then also like there's this bit where she's like, I banished a Mordicant when I was this age.
Yeah.
You know, I closed the final page of the Book of the Dead a year ago. I don't feel young anymore.
Yeah, like this is not like death itself and what happens after you die. Those are things that are not even weird to her anymore. Like, it's just
death, and what came
life.
After was no mystery for Sabriel. She wished it was.
Yes. And then obviously she's familiar with life and people that are alive. And there's a moment in the very, literally the beginning of the book, where her friends, or one of the younger students, I don't know if they're actually friends, but one of the younger students, her bunny rabbit got out and died. I think it got hit by a car? Maybe?
I think... Yeah, because it was on the road, so...
Yeah. And Sabriel steps into death, grabs the bunny spirit, and sticks it back in the bunny. Over. And the bunny is good to go now.
The first lines in the book are, the rabbit had been run over minutes before.
Okay. Yeah.
After the prologue, that is the first thing.
So... like, we see, like, our first introduction to Sabriel as a character is her stepping into death and grabbing a bunny and putting it back in its body so it's alive again.
Yeah.
But then, later on, after she's back in the Old Kingdom and trying to find her father and figure out what is even going on here and survive and not, get found by the things pursuing her and stuff like that, she finds a charter mark on I think it's on a...
It's a bridge.
It's on a
bridge.
On
the post of the bridge.
That's what I was trying to remember if it was a fence post or a bridge post. And the way, like, message charter marks work in this universe, you can touch it and hear the whole message, essentially. So she does that. And this is these soldiers... It's their dying moments where they're trying to leave some information for anyone who can find it and hear it and listen to it. And at the very, very end of the message, the soldier dies right before the message ends. And that that moment of that death, that was the first time Sabriel had ever experienced a human death, like the moment of a human death herself.
And even then, it's a little bit removed because it was, like, the message of it.
This is true.
Yeah, but, like, it's kind of... Oh, I point that out mostly because it's, like, it slowly escalates throughout the book.
Yeah.
Because first she has the message recording the moment of someone's death, and then a bunch of people die, but they're not, like, nearby when, and she's at Abortion's house.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
A bunch of people dying in the river. So it's like, it's a bunch of them, but they're not super close. And then it's the guy, where that dead thing was riding him.
Yes.
And it just uses him up and shucks him.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's a gentle escalation on a rough subject.
Yeah.
But it feels like a pretty natural build-up, so it's not like, oh, we're gonna have a death in like a most death way ever. But it does have a pretty natural build of like, we got a recording of someone dying.
Then we have a death.
Little bit more. Then we have like some deaths, and then we have someone dying, like, right in front of her, and then her having to fight the dead thing that killed him. And then we have, like, the climax at the end with, we're briefly mentioning that it builds up to, our next segment will be talking more about the death of Sabriel's father, but it kind of, as this escalation, it builds up to, Asterael, her having to fight to not fall into death, and also feeling her father pass.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very well done escalation where it kind of goes from like, I've got this. I've been in death a bunch. I've banished all
this naivete.
I am hot shit. Like, I can do all this stuff. I don't feel young anymore. Oh, I've never actually felt a person die. Oh my goodness, all these people are dying in the river, and I can't do anything. I've got to stay here. And then,
yeah,
I couldn't save this guy.
And she talks too about feeling the shock of it. That's actually a consistent thing throughout, in general, all the books. And I don't think we'll touch on this again.
She's not getting numbed, but she is definitely getting acclimatized.
Oh yeah, you definitely get acclimated to it. Acclimated, if you can feel it.
Acclimatized isn't a word. I don't know why I went for that. Yeah, getting acclimated to death in a more visceral way. Mm-hmm. Because she was totally a student of death.
Oh,
and a
yeah.
good one.
But there's a very consistent descriptor throughout all the books of the first time or the first couple times that someone who has this death sense feels that moment of death. It is a shock.
Yeah.
It is shocking, and it's all they can think about for a second because they just felt it, and it is traumatic.
Yeah.
And I think that, and it's one of those things where we'll get to this in our reading also, but it's a very necessary trauma.
For the story to happen.
Well, for Sabriel in general. Like,
yeah.
It is something that would happen because she can sense death.
The only way to get around it is to have it be that if it hadn't been the first time.
Oh, yeah.
The first time didn't have to take place in this book, but the book couldn't happen.
That is true.
Without this happening a lot.
But everyone who can sense death will have this moment where they experience it for the first time, and but also she definitely does get acclimated to it, and by the end of the book, like, she's very aware still when people are dying,
But by the
it's
end
not
of the book, she's
distracting
killing people.
anymore.
Right. By the end of the book, she's killing people.
Yeah, she is causing that death. So our last topic is the death of Sabriel's father. And this is a weird one in this story because when we start the book, he's already dead.
He's already in death. Let's make that distinction.
I mean, I would argue he's already dead.
Okay. Well, I think
because
the book has a lot of ambiguity about that.
I mean, the book does, but not when she finds him at the end.
True.
And I would argue that the book has less ambiguity, that Sabriel is fighting for ambiguity.
Okay.
Because
everybody else is like, he's dead, right?
Yeah, everybody else is like, hey, he gave you the bell and the sword. Like, he sent you his only instruments that matter. He's not coming back, and she doesn't accept that. Which is actually why we're talking about this being as traumatic as it is, and why we've listed this after her experience of a human death.
Right.
She starts out the book getting his bells and his sword. And then, and she doesn't believe it. She doesn't believe that he's dead. She's firmly, completely certain that he's trapped somewhere and that she can free him and she can find him and he'll be alive and all she has to do is find his body and it'll be all okay in the end. And then when
she's not really thinking about if he's trapped enough.
No, but she's just thinking I'll get him back. It'll all be fine.
Sure.
She doesn't say the word trap, but there's this definite feel of like, no, I'll go rescue him. It's all good. I'll my dad again.
But if he had his sword and his bells to be able to send them to her, if he were gonna be fine, he would have been able to get out, and she just doesn't see that at all.
Yeah. And then there's a moment where she has to talk to the perimeter guard, the army, and her father
Colonel
had fastened... Huh?
Colonel Hoyce.
Yes, Colonel Hoyce.
Because it sounds like horse.
Her father had fashioned wind flutes that keep the dead down, and there's a lot of dead in that spot that to be kept down. And Sabriel's talking to the colonel. To the colonel, and I learned that word by reading it. Sorry.
We can later have a separate debate about the interesting etymology of that and the split between how you say it and how it's written. It's great.
Okay,
but
that's fair. So she had so she was talking to the colonel, and he desperately needed her to tell him when the wind flutes would die because they would, because her father had crafted them, and she was going to have to craft new ones eventually. And she hedges her answer so much because maybe, according to her, if he's dead, then they'll fall at the next full moon. Or if he's really not and it's all okay and I save him and he comes back, then maybe I won't have to make any more and maybe you'll all be fine. And the first time around when she's talking to the colonel, she does not want to give a solid answer on that. Because giving a real answer would be admitting that her father might not come back. And then we move on, and then she finds Mogget at the house, and Mogget straight up tells her in multiple statements that if he sent the bells and the sword, he's not coming back. And also that Mogget is experienced enough and old enough and tied to the abortions enough that he knows that her father is not coming back. And Sabriel's like, well, you're wrong, and I don't even know who you are anyway, and I'll save him, you'll see. And Mogget's just kind of like, okay, sure, buddy.
Yeah.
And even after that, she really just does not accept that he might be dead until she actually does find his body, go into death, find what is his trapped spirit. His spirit is trapped. Release him, and then he has to be the one to tell her, hey, no, I'm definitely dead. I can come back for 100 heartbeats, and when those heartbeats end, I'm gone forever. And he forbids her from trying to bring him back by any other means.
It's like, I'm doing this on my own terms, and then I'll die.
Yeah.
Because my last lesson to you is that everyone has a time to die.
Yeah.
And boy, what a way to drive home that lesson.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she... and I'm not advocating for the 7 stages of grief that are kind of outdated and subjective a little bit, but if you want to,
But there are stages.
There are stages, but she gets firmly stuck in the denial stage for the majority of this book.
Mm-hmm. Whether or not you think of it as a stage, she is in denial.
She is in denial, and cannot let go.
And the only person she believes that he's dead is him. Which
thankfully for the book is possible. Yeah. Like, oh good. Well, it's good that she could talk to him in here. And then I think there's a moment after that where she almost gives up because she couldn't save him, and that's not her fault, but that's not what grief is about.
Right.
That's not what the trauma of this is about. It doesn't matter that it wasn't her fault that she couldn't save him, that there was nothing to save. But she almost gives up and basically starts to despair and says, well, I couldn't even rescue my father. How can I rescue everybody? I couldn't even save the one person that mattered the most to me. So why should I even try? And then Touchstone kind of pulls her out of that and basically said, no, let's do it together. We'll make a better future, and we'll find things to care about, and it'll be okay. And that works. But she definitely didn't she spent the whole book just not processing and not dealing and refusing to face it. And so then when she was kind of confronted literally with her father's death, she almost just breaks down and is done. And there's a very kind of an odd comparison there with our second topic, with her slow acclimation into feeling humans die in real time, because she doesn't, she experiences those human deaths, and over the course of the book, like we stated, she gets kind of acclimated to it, and so it's something she's never not aware of, but it's not crippling. But she spends the whole book denying a particular death. And so then when she finally confronts it, it's too much. She spent no time acclimating. She spent no time adjusting. She spent no time processing. And it was overwhelming at the end.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts on that one?
No, I think
these books are pretty straightforward.
This one's really straightforward. I really like how it's handled. Because it's like, any way she could have reacted to this is totally fine. Mm-hmm. But there's a really good balance between it feels like her refusing to process is purposeful. It's more than just, we've got to get on with the story, and she needs there to be a story so that she doesn't have to deal with this.
Yeah. Very much so.
That this is so big that it's like she goes through all this stuff that any other time would be pretty terrible. because it's like, at the end of this, I'm gonna save my dad. At the end of this, everything's gonna be fine. And there's this very, like, innocent feeling of, if I can just rescue him, then everything will go back to normal. Now, she never says it. She never says it with that naivete. But
she hints it for sure.
Yeah, and it's because it kind of goes from, oh, I gotta rescue my dad, to, oh no, the whole kingdom. This is the whole kingdom. The whole kingdom is like this.
Yeah,
these stones are broken. It's like she goes from, because her father's kind of the MacGuffin, so it's like it goes from, I've got to go rescue the MacGuffin, to, oh no, there's a bigger saga, we're gonna need more books. Like, in this really good way. And if you're gonna have a MacGuffin, like, having it as a distractor for building the background that makes the following books feel useful and necessary, and like they build on something good, is nice. I think that feels like it's drifting into wrap-up territory, so let's end this segment. But I think I really like the role that her search for her father plays, because she's not one-track mind, but she's got this goal.
Yeah.
She has this very, very clear goal, and she slightly, she adjusts her path, but not her expectations, until, like, the last third, when she's slowly inching towards accepting, okay, maybe he won't be back, and then it's like, maybe, no, he will. No, okay, no, I'll definitely save him. See, look, there he is in a diamond. He's gonna be fine. And then he's in a diamond of protection. Like, oh yeah, he'll be fine. But I really like how him having to tell her, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
It just works so well. Sorry if that was a little rambly.
That's right.
It's a good MacGuffin.
It is.
Alright, let's get to our wrap-up. So, our first thing is the gratuity rating for each of our topics. So, for Touchstone and the Betrayal by Raw Gear, that is backstory. And then the PTSD is somewhere between mild and moderate. I think it's more on the mild side.
Yeah.
In terms of how it is depicted. Again, this is how it is depicted in the story, not how bad it is implicitly or explicitly for the character.
Yes.
So with that, it's more like, you get, like, the shape of it, we're not delving in, like, he's not talking about how it's affecting him in his head. He's not talking about it. It's more Sabriel seeing, kind of what it does. And it feels a step removed.
Yeah. Other people see him freeze, but we don't get turmoil from his brain.
Right. We don't get a litany of thoughts. We don't get something that, unless someone has a very low trigger threshold, we don't have something that feels like it would be triggering, just from reading the description. It's recognizable, but mild. Or it's backstory.
Yeah. Sabriel experiencing human death.
Oh, that's moderate, building up to severe.
Yes.
So her father dying, and just like that,
well,
I just keep coming back to that moment with, like, Sabriel.
That was very severe. Definitely severe.
It's so powerful, but it's powerful, but then, in terms of the trauma depiction, like, it is severe. But just, it's such a good narrative moment.
Yes.
I would say that it is severe and detailed. Because it's magical, it's probably not going to be traumatic to read. Probably. You might get some feels.
Yeah.
Lots of feelings. I don't know. I suppose I haven't had a parent die. If you've had a parent die, this passage is going to be rough. It's going to be real rough.
I would argue if you've had a parent die, the book is rough in general.
Yeah. Because
it starts with him.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say, if you've been around, because I have not been around a lot of death. I, at this point, still have never been to a funeral. I'm going to go to the first memorial I've ever been to tomorrow. Don't know how that's going to be. Like, I have never been to a funeral, so I should not weigh in on whether this is traumatic for someone who has a lot more presence of death in their life, because I just don't. Depending on how I decided to count it, I could claim 8 grandparents. Like, I just...
Yeah.
I mean, you can too, but yeah, it's very far away for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and say severe, and take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very powerful passage.
It's very, very well written.
Super well written. Leading.
Good.
So her refusing to believe that her father has died, I think, for her, I think it'll be pretty recognizable. It'll have a lot of emotional echoes. The actual depiction, I think, is more mild. It's mild but repetitious.
I've been kind of debating myself if the repetition kicks it up to moderate. But I don't actually think it does, because the repetition is just her being optimistic that it'll be fine.
Right. Like if you're taking what she says
that he's dead, it's repetition that she's like, we're gonna go get him. And that's about it. That's about all that happens there.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely mild. Yeah, like you're saying, the repetition is, oh, everything's going to be fine. So if you believe Sabriel, it doesn't even feel like it's going to be traumatic, and then you get a gut punch. So it's mild until it is severe.
Yes. Okay, so moving on to why this trauma. With Touchstone, this is the setup for the whole book.
Right. It's totally integral.
Yeah, I don't think it could have been replaced by anything else. There wouldn't really have been... I don't know of anything else that would have made sense.
It could have been replaced with something equivalently terrible, but
I mean, not really,
not in a way that would make the story better.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't make the story make sense. Yeah. Because the whole point of this, the whole story, the whole kingdom story hinges on what Touchstone did and what it caused. And I don't...
You could change how many people died. You could change how closely Touchstone was related to them.
Could you,
But
though?
other than... they could have been brothers other than sisters. Like, there's just, like...
I mean, but that's not changing the trauma. That's just changing with the characters.
True. That's true.
I don't think you can change that at all. I don't think there's anything about the trauma that could have been replaced in a way that would have kept the story the way it was.
Yeah, so integral, it is not interchangeable, and it's very, very relevant.
Incredibly relevant.
Her experiencing the moment of death, I don't think it's necessarily integral to the plot that the first time she felt it happened within the book.
Yeah, it doesn't have to happen on camera, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But I would argue that her being aware of those things is integral to the plot, and I think that, like... I think it's not even something that we can really argue with this one if it's interchangeable or irrelevant. I think that it would either have to...
It's a book about going into death.
Yeah, like...
It would be a totally different book if it did something else.
I think that seeing that moment, again, like, quote-unquote, on film, might not have had to happen in the book, but you really can't replace it with anything, and it's definitely relevant. So it's weird because technically we didn't have to see it, but it had to happen.
So it's not integral, but if you're going to have something, you can't really have a different thing.
I'm going to say it's integral because we can argue about the semantics of whether or not it had to be on or off camera, but it had to happen.
Right.
And
if she's going to be in death, sometime has to be the first time.
Right, exactly.
Could have been backstory, could have been depicted.
Right, but that doesn't change the fact that that doesn't change it happening.
Yeah. The death of her father, he's the MacGuffin, so it is very integral to the plot.
Well, more than that, if he was still alive, the book wouldn't happen. There'd be no story at all. And
you can tell a different story in this location with these characters, but that's what the other 4 books are for.
Yes. And also, I think her refusal to deal with it is also integral to the story. Like, I think every part of that, she wouldn't have gone and made the places that she did, made the decisions that she did, if she had accepted it outright. She would have made different decisions.
It's such a long trek, too.
Yeah.
That optimism for 90% of the book is really important, because you don't want 90% of the book to be impending doom and then the last 10% to be a kick in the face.
Yeah,
you need
a very that
different book.
Suspension there, yes.
Because the whole book is, I know you're trying to be happy, all this other stuff is terrible, and it's just gradually building how much stuff is terrible until that last final, oh, this isn't okay either.
Yeah.
Just speaking in general terms, like, it's important.
Yes.
That build-up, yeah. So then, whether the trauma is treated with care, I would say
I'm gonna argue
not nearly as beautifully as Golden Compass. Like, it's not callous.
Okay. No, we're not comparing books. We're looking at one book at a time.
Not comparing books.
We're not creating a rating system of a lineup. We're not doing that.
When we have a season, I want a lineup.
We can do that. We can totally do a lineup later, but not in the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, talking about was the trauma treated with care?
It's not callous, but it's also not really kid gloves either. It's kind of like it's not going. It's definitely going to bring up a lot of feelings if you've lost someone close or if you've lost a lot of people.
I have a question with that, though.
Yeah.
Because so this is also something I was kind of thinking of as we were recording the rest of this. I don't really know of a way it could have been treated with more care. Because other than literally lying about what was happening, it's...
Other than having... Okay, so let's...
Like, I think it actually was treated with care. It's just that these specific 3 topics are, first off, not everyday experiences for most people. And I don't mean losing a parent. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, specifically, the trauma that Touchstone undergoes is not possible.
Oh, yes.
in our non-magical world. Experiencing a death, feeling it happen, because we're not just talking about seeing someone die, we're talking about, like, a death sense. That is not a thing that exists in the same way in our world. So it's also not something that you can gloss over going, people know what this is. Like, you can't do that, because it's not going to be there then. And
that's true.
And also, like, other than... I would argue even that her father's death was treated with extreme care. We weren't subject to her freaking out. We weren't subject to a lot of build-up trauma ahead of time. And also, the person she was losing did tell her she was losing him. She got closure. And she got closure on screen. We saw her get closure. I would argue this was handled with extreme care. It's just that the topics are ones where you can't gloss over them without them not really making sense.
She gets closure and then an explicit decision to continue to live despite everything that's happened.
Yes. So yeah, I would argue it was treated with extreme care. It's just... It's hard to treat something that doesn't exist in our world with care, because eventually you're too ambiguous. You're too ambiguous.
I would say
you lose it.
I would say that in terms of it being treated with care, this is an instance where the magical analog brings the trauma closer rather than further away.
That's fair.
And in that sense, I think it would have been a worse book if it had been treated with more care. But it would be possible to have done so. And I wouldn't want to read that book either.
Oh yeah, you could totally have written a book where you just didn't actually talk about it, but that would not have been the same book. So we're gonna rate this with enough care. So far we have 4 categories for this one, where we kind of started out with 2 when we were first talking about this podcast. We have yes, no, not enough, and enough.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Point of view of our trauma. Touchstone, we basically, we get him and Sabriel.
In this book, we have a couple of different points of view. The main one is Sabriel. We get a few moments where it's focused, where it's kind of not in Touchstone's head, but following Touchstone. Not in Mogget's head, but following Mogget. And then we get some moments in the heads of one of the dead. And in terms of feeling people die, we do get the perspective of someone dying. So in terms of that type of trauma being depicted in the book, I feel like it fits in that category, even though it is not the perspective of our main character.
Oh yeah,
I think that
absolutely.
That totally fits. So as for the betrayal and stuff with Touchstone, we mostly get Sabriel's perspective on Touchstone.
We do get Touchstone a couple of times, even when Sabriel's awake.
A little bit, not as much.
We get him in the moments that matter, I feel. This is just my opinion, but we get it. We get him when he first wakes up.
Right.
We get him as they go to the reservoir.
Right.
And
but
we get
whenever
a moment when he sees Rogier's body.
That's true. But whenever he's talking about the betrayal and the backstory, it is not his perspective.
That's true, but it is his words, and also that is. I think that's part of the treating it with care thing, where we're not getting things viscerally; we're getting it told as a story, and I think that's a. I don't think that's a problem. I think that's a necessary.
Oh no, not a problem.
Distance.
Yeah.
And speaking with the way we've handled point of view in other things too. We very much get the victim's feelings in the aftermath.
Right.
We get Touchstone.
So,
and then but then we also get the perspective of people who care or are incredibly invested in what happened. Mogget was, I don't remember, did they say he was there? Oh no, he was. He went with the abortion at the time and he arrived too late. So here our perspectives on Touchstone's trauma are Touchstone, the victim, Mogget, who witnessed it, and then Sabriel, who is the person that cares about Touchstone as a person.
Right.
And also the person alive that he cares about in return.
Yeah. So,
I think this is I think it's a good spread, actually, of people.
Oh, yeah. And then for experiencing the moment of death, like I said, we have Sabriel experiencing someone die, and then we also have the perspective of the newly and the long ago dead, and what that was like.
Yeah.
So we get before, during, and after, kind of, from a mix of perspectives in a pretty good way. I don't think we have the perspective of anyone as they die, but we definitely have as they die, and then that dead creature who had been dead for a very long time. And given how integral the world after death is in these books, getting that creature's perspective. And I say creature because, like, they don't remember who they were. They don't remember their past other than that they were human. So this
they are creatures now, even if they were human before. Yeah, and again, kind of bringing it back to the language that we had used before, we basically just get victim perspectives. We get Sabriel who's experiencing it, and we get people who were the victims of whatever it was that killed them. But we're not given, like, a necromancer feeling death or being happy about it in some way. Like, we don't get perpetrators.
Oh, that's true. The only thing I would say we get perpetrator is we get attempted perpetrator. With Thrall, but...
Yeah, but he doesn't succeed.
This is true. Yeah. We get the perspective of someone dead trying to inflict more death, and they don't manage to, but we do get their perspective as someone on both sides of this in a really weird way that's not possible in a lot of other stories.
Yes.
So that's nice.
With Sabriel's dad, we really just get Sabriel.
Yeah, we don't get him. That's part of the point.
I mean, yeah, but that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
It ties in nicely with the story, essentially.
Yeah.
In point of view of the aftermath, we're still only on Sabriel.
Yeah, I mean, 90% of this book is Sabriel's perspective, and then...
Yeah, and this is
dipping
intrinsically
into other
tied to her and nobody else.
Yeah, dipping into other places to enrich the story, but not diverting from major sections. Other books have dual narrators. Other books in this series have dual narrators. This really, I wouldn't class as one of them.
Right. But it also makes sense as the first book, and the one with the smallest cast of characters.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Alright, so, moving on to nice things. Aspiring writer tip. What do you have for this one?
Aspiring writer tip. Don't be afraid to create something for your book's world. We had some of this with the other series that we did, but
don't be afraid to make something dark?
No.
What?
So both of the series that we've covered so far, the author has created something intrinsic about the world that the story exists in. For his Dark Materials, they created the daemons and also the branching worlds that are on similar timelines, but not the same at all. And the daemons especially felt very, very real in the story's world. And then here, in this series, they've created death and the Old Kingdom and charter magic and free magic, and they're all connected and they're all related, but none of them feel like they don't exist in our real world, but none of them feel off or wrong or separate, or like the author just needed something and grabbed it from somewhere. Like, they all make sense. Yeah. The characters treat them as they make sense, and they're not extra.
And an interesting thing that I would say with all that, there are explicit characters who don't more
believe.
so in the later books, but there are characters who don't treat it seriously and don't think it makes sense because they're not from that part of the world. They're not from the Old Kingdom. They don't work at the border.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't detract from the story at all. If anything, that makes it feel more realistic.
Right, and the we can talk about this more in the later books because it's definitely more of a thing in the later books. Mm-hmm. In this book, we mostly hear about people who aren't up on this.
Yeah, but I would say as an aspiring writer tip, don't be afraid to create something in the world that either doesn't make sense or doesn't run the way ours does. Don't let it being unrealistic mess you up. If you like
make
it
rules,
and you can
make
cool
rules
make
and then follow them
to your characters, then go for it.
Make rules and then follow them.
Yeah.
No gratuitous Deus Ex Machinas, please.
Yeah.
They look cool in movies, but they make the rest
reading
of
very hard.
Make reading very hard. Because I can remember 200 pages ago when something happened that means that there's no way this thing you're doing at the end could happen. But yeah, build cool rules and then follow them. Books that I really hope we can cover in this podcast are... there's an author who's super... I keep being like, there's an author who's super good at making cool rules and then following them. Eventually we'll get there. Eventually we'll read these books.
Put them
and
on
you will
the
all
list.
know.
You have a list.
Oh, I did.
Oh, okay.
I did. It's on the list. I already told you who it is.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like I'm going to keep referring to eventually we're going to cover this author. So exciting. It's my favorite author. Anyway, build cool rules and then follow them. This system with death is a really, really cool set of rules that's got enough to get this story going and enough room to play that you can flesh it out over the next several books, and that's what he does.
Yep.
It's very exciting.
It's very
favorite non-traumatic.
You can tell that he's thought it out. Yeah. I would also put in with that whole make cool rules and follow them. Plan out all of your rules. If this is the kind of writer you are, if you like to plan things out, plan out all of your rules, and then don't give us all of them immediately. You don't have you don't have to spill everything.
Don't tell us all the rules.
No,
don't tell us all the rules.
We can make that. We can make that even an aspiring writer tip for our next.
Actually, or we'll just say it in this one. If you're going to make cool rules, don't tell us all of them, because figuring out what the cool rules are is part of the fun of reading, and being right about the cool rules is even better.
Yes.
Have rules, be consistent.
Have fun, make something you like.
Yeah. And then have characters react naturally given that those are the rules.
Favorite
or unnaturally if they refuse to accept that those are the rules, and that's going to happen later in this series.
Favorite
so much.
non-traumatic thing in this book? What do you think?
I was hoping you go first.
I can go first.
Okay.
I really like the bells. I just like the characters. I like the fact that the bells have personalities, and that is totally something that will get fleshed out later. But I like that the bells have personalities, and I like that they want to sound on their own accord and they have their own agenda, and it entertains me a lot. So much so, and I actually told Robin about this. We were just talking about the book before. I actually have made a D&D character before, and I want to play her more. That is loosely based off of this. And she is a combo class sorcerer bard, and she has her weapons of choice are the bells.
Nice.
And eventually, if I ever play her enough to level her up enough, I want her to take something that makes her more of a necromancer. But I like that the bells have personalities.
Think about doing cleric instead of sorcerer.
Ugh, gross.
You don't want to memorize spells?
There's other reasons I chose sorcerer. I can tell you about this later.
Okay. All right. Favorite non-traumatic thing. I liked all the creepy stuff.
See, you're having the problem. I mean, I like all the creepy stuff too. This book just has something that isn't creepy that I also like, which the other ones really do.
Oh, that's what it was. The Sendings. The Charter Sendings.
Oh, yeah.
The Charting Sendings who are old and stubborn and scrub Sabriel and give her a bath because they know best and she has to have a bath. And they give Mogget plain linen and cheap plates, and Sabriel gets an awesome tablecloth and cool plates or something.
Yeah.
And then they all like
Mogget had to
and
eat
stuff
out of
and
the kitchen when an abortion's not in the house.
We should say that the charter sendings are like magic servants and
bespoke magic servants.
Right. They're not
They're not people, I would love to have sentient. They have been imbued with the free will to do their specific task.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally can't even go too far away from their conjuring marks. Like
I've been listening to a podcast that has me thinking interesting things about sentience and personhood, and I would have finished all 5 books and then maybe have a debate with you about whether they're sentient and whether they're people.
Okay.
But that's totally separate. You don't have to keep this line in the podcast anyway. Okay. But when we finish this and we've seen what's in all 5 books, since I've been listening to Philosophers in Space, I want to have a debate about whether they're actually sentient and whether we should treat them as though they're sentient and have personhood, despite the fact that they have all been made mute, because I do not think that being unable to speak should be disqualifying.
Oh, that has nothing to do with my logic for this.
Oh, no, but I want to get through all 5 and then see how I feel about it, because I definitely have some changed assumptions rereading this. Because they develop personalities over time, which feels like
they
do. Okay, I gotta reread the other ones, but it feels like it's saying they do. Anyway, so my favorite thing, the charter sendings, and they I like how they act like they know best, and they swear fealty. Not that fealty is a thing to aspire to, but it's a cool.
They acknowledge the passing of one master to another.
Yeah. All music used in this podcast was created by Nicole as HeartBeatArt Co. and is used with permission.
You can follow us on Twitter at Books That Burn, all one word.
You can email us with questions, comments, or book recommendations at booksthatburn@yahoo.com.
Support us on patreon.com/booksthatburn. All patrons get access to our upcoming book list and